This conference will now be recorded.
I'm going to do a roll call real quick. Brian? I see you, Brian. Norma? Present. Don? John?
Here. Present.
Russ? Present. And Robin and Gage are not going to be here today. Consistent with the Texas Open Meetings Act, citizen comments for non-agenda items in accordance, the committee is prohibited from acting or discussing other than factual responses to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. Are there any citizens in the audience who would like to speak to a non-agenda item? I don't see anybody or any mute buttons going off, so I will presume no. And we'll move into business items. Agenda item number 1 with comments from our council liaison, Mr. David Williams. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm doing fine. No comments at this time. Thank you for having me on. Sit back and be a part. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Agenda item number 2, Economic Development Director, Business Plans. Is Mr. Zeno, is there anything that you'd like to address with us?
Yes, I'm having some audio difficulties as well here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay, all right, good. Here we go. I don't know what's going on. Can you see me?
No, sir, but we can hear you perfectly clear.
Okay. The only item I have, and I think, Paul, your wife is on the Parks and Rec, I believe, advisory board.
Yes, sir.
And so the Mr. City Engineer is asking for a possible letter of recommendation because they missed the council changed the revisions of the park and added, so they missed the grant portion of that due to comments, and so they're asking for recommendation letters from the EDAC, Chamber of Commerce, and other entities. And so if y'all would like to write a recommendation letter, this committee, that would be appreciated.
Thank you. We will discuss that. When is that needed by, Mr. Zeno?
City engineer contacted me this morning and contacted other parties involved, so I'm not sure, but I can check. I'm not sure when he would need it, but he did ask this morning.
If you wouldn't mind sending me a follow-up email, just confirming when he needs that by, and then we can put something together. We'll be happy to.
Sure will.
Accommodate that. Let me just make a note. I actually do want to go back, Councilor Williams. Yeah. I would like to go back. I made a note to myself I forgot to ask you about. And I emailed everybody about it, referring everyone to the P&Z packet and their subcommittee work. Is there anything pertaining to our committee that we should be contributing to? I noticed that there was conversation in the subcommittee that the action items for the subcommittee talk about economic development.
Not at this moment. Once it goes to because what we did is change that into an action kind of ongoing comprehensive plan, where instead of it being just at the year end, it will be updated all the time. So the Economic Development Committee will have opportunity to add to it along with other entities in the city. So I first need to get it through P&Z, and then I got to get it through council, and then we'll discuss it as a committee here. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Does that make sense to you all?
It does to me. Yeah, you're
Okay.
you're working. You've got a priority list, and you're prioritizing stuff. The changes or rather the updates required in pursuant to the comprehensive master plan. And once you address the stuff that you can through P&Z, you're then, other committees as is appropriate will input from them will be
Chime in.
brought out.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Business item number 3, presentation, National Sign Plazas, NSP, Homebuilder, and Wayfair signage. We're excited to have you here today, and we look forward to you presenting, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you.
My name is Patrick Fuller. I'm the Vice President of National Sign Plazas. To my right is Mike Tobias. He is the Austin Division Manager, and on the video call is Rochelle Lewis, our Business Development Specialist, and she is in the Phoenix office. So we do have a short presentation. I'll give a little bit of an intro of the company, and then Rochelle will talk a little bit about our Homebuilder specific directional sign program, and then Mike will talk about the wayfinding signs programs that we do. So,
Paul, are you able to give me presenter access?
I believe so. If not, Mr. David Street on here, he has that ability.
Oh, it looks like I got something popped up. Let's see.
I just gave it to you. Okay, excellent. Thank you, David.
Perfect. Are you able to see this red screen? The We Bring
Yes.
Communities Together?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Pat, go ahead and take it away.
thanks, Rochelle. I'll touch my nose, but I need you to push the slide forward.
Okay. I think I got it.
As I said, our company name is National Sign Plazas. Our purpose of our company is we bring communities together, and we do that through mostly in the environmental sign space. We operate in 9 states. We have 3 offices here in Texas, Austin, of course, Houston, and Dallas. We've installed, maintained, managed over 60 wayfinding programs across those states in the past 25 years. Next year will be our 25th year. So move on to the next slide.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Rochelle.
okay.
So, even despite, the rise in technology, we all use Waze and Google Maps and everything, but, studies have shown that, directional signs are still the most effective means to drive, traffic to attractions and, points of destinations through the city. So there's still a viable product to move traffic. So, whoops, let's slide down. Again, we've been in business for almost 25 years, and have been dedicated to positively influence the customer experience in the home buying process and also in the civic interest experiences. We're a strategy company. NSP is a company that develops strategies to connect traffic to a predetermined customer experience. And again, we do that mostly in the environmental space, environmental graphics. NSP delivers on this promise primarily through 2 distinct but similar products. And this is where Rochelle's going to take over and talk a little bit about our Homebuilder program.
Awesome. Thank you. So we just want to make sure everyone understands we're presenting 2 different programs to all of you that will benefit the city of Lago Vista. And with both these programs, both of them will benefit, and both of them will have different outcomes. And so I'm going to talk about the Homebuilder Directional Sign Program. This is a turnkey program that's focused on all of your home builders that are coming into the market. And what this program is we know that there is a ton of growth in the Austin metro area. It's at an all-time high right now. And with limited supply of affordability of right in the city center of Austin, many people are moving to cities surrounding Austin, including Lago Vista. We know that you have some home builders that I'll chat about in the next slide that are growing your city and bringing more people into Lago Vista. And while we are excited to embrace the growth of Lago Vista, it comes with some, some unintended consequences. And so, as you could see in this picture, we call these signs our snipe or bandit signs that I'm sure you've seen around your city and maybe some other neighboring cities as well. And it's so all of these homes could advertise, hey, we have new homes and we want you to come see us. And so we take this eyesore and we turn it into what we call our kiosk signs. So this picture on the right-hand side. And so this is our Homebuilder Plaza Panel program. And so what this means for you at the City of Lago Vista is that we put multiple of these kiosk signs throughout the city to direct traffic to all these home builders or to the home builder sales office and to the communities. And it's able to create a uniform look for the city, eliminate the clutter of these temporary signs, and also make all these home builders happy because we're able to give them the exposure that they want and need to drive traffic and therefore drive their sales and then drive the economy up as well in Lago Vista. And so this program is, you will love this cost. It's free. It's all managed by us at National Sign Plazas. And actually, it does generate revenue for the city as well. We focus on meeting all the Department of Transportation and Texas DOT requirements as well when we focus on the installation of the signs. And just a few of the new housing developments. We know this is probably forever always changing, but we found that there are about 5 to 6 active new home communities in Lago Vista, with more on the plans in the future. And so just based on our experience doing this for the past 25 years, we are estimating that there'll be about 20 to 25 panels that we could get up between all the new home builders. So each one of these, you can see this says Lennar. This is an example of another town we do, but you see it says Lennar, Richmond. Each one of these are different panel signs. So we estimate about 20 to 25 different panels that we could get up. And that would translate to a yearly revenue of approximately $3,000 for the city. While we know that's not going to break the bank as far as the amount of revenue you're getting, we are able to give that to the city for administration fees. And like we said, we manage the whole program, no work for you at Lago Vista. Additional benefit for this is where it's able to help with the cost of city and code enforcement, where you may have your code enforcement officials going through pulling those temporary signs. We are able to eliminate that since we are enforcing this new program. And with that, we're going to dive into a little bit of the Civic Wayfinding program. And so I'll turn that over to Mike. This is our second program that we are offering you as well.
And just a few things I want to follow up with on what Rochelle just said. We work through the city. That doesn't mean you guys have to constantly manage the program. I just want to make it clear that we get permission for the sites we install. So we're not going to switch signs that are temporary on the side of the road for like 300 structures. You know, it's done in a thoughtful way, consulting with the city on what we're going to build before we build it, just to be clear on that. And that being said, I'll talk about our approach to the wayfinding as a whole for the city. Kind of the difference maker for NSP is that we're a design and build approach. We do both. Our approach to wayfinding is designed to eliminate the costly plans going undeveloped. Like a lot of times when we meet with cities, they've had a wayfinding plan in place that they paid for some years back, and it's just kind of been shelved. waiting for the next round of budget approvals. And then in that time, not every company that's done those designs has worked with TxDOT maybe as much as we have. So it sits on a shelf, and then when it goes to be implemented, it has to be corrected. TxDOT has a lot of rules that we have to work with it, and during our consultation, we walk the city through that to make sure we come out successfully to end product. Most designers have a disconnect in the buildable real world. Our experience allows us to design, build, and execute the wayfinding, taking everything into account. We audit all potential wayfinding locations and build creative designs and plans around the environment. So, you know, our question for you is, what are you looking for holiday lighting? The wayfinding system, similar to the Homebuilder, is designed to move users to destinations, right? It will also establish a sense of place in your community, orient traffic with a logical, intuitive system, and enhance the best and most frequently used areas in your civic environment. The wayfinding system can capture and engage traffic to move them up previously unknown destinations, thus increasing their daily spend in the city. So basically, what we want to do is take people moving through Lago Vista and move them to where you would like them to be, right? So that your businesses capture more revenue, your parks get more use, your city becomes more of a destination location, your tax revenues increase. An example would be many visitors that trek to the Warbler Vista hiking trail may never know that Lago Vista has a community golf course that overlooks Lake Travis, or that you must travel through Lago Vista to get to Arkansas Bend Park. Ability to engage traffic at key decision points is a critical part of the planning process. So basically, let's work together. I just wanted to give you a few examples that are real world to show you, you know, what are the pratfalls you can have when you would like to institute a wayfinding system. I really like the Cedar Park signs. We designed those signs, so I give Pat credit. I think he actually did the design on those. And they're beautiful signs. Now, you may notice when you drive through Cedar Park, there's some blank ones, right? Or they're half missing. That was not an accident. TxDOT came and removed what they didn't like on those signs. And what they didn't like on those signs was, after we did a design plan for them, they basically hired not us to install them, right? So someone's favorite vendor for whatever reason. And when they did that, they made changes to the program that were illegal. And you can't put anything that costs money, you know, to make money on the wayfinding system. So when they added something that was a for-profit business, TxDOT came and removed it. So literally, TxDOT just showed up and pulled their panels off and left. You know, and that's why as you drive through Cedar Park, you see these beautiful signs that are half beautiful because they're blank on half. When I reference the challenges you can have getting things through TxDOT, that's specifically what I'm referring to. You know, what we want to do is we want to talk to you, and we want to set the priorities for the city of Lago Vista. And once we do that, then we'll create a wayfinding plan to get people to those locations. Okay. So basically, I just want to kind of give you an overview on the prices for that. So the design plan, we would take the admin fees into consideration, which we think you're going to make for the first year, and we'll do a design credit at the beginning of $3,000 to drop the design plan to $19,000. What that includes is we present you with several different designs on how you'd like the signs made. It's kind of a back and forth process for a while, to where we make sure that you guys are happy with the signs because they're going to be there for a long time, right? So we do the design plan. That also includes going out, surveying each spot, getting all the information we need for TxDOT. We have to measure each location and get approval. So it's a complex and kind of drawn out process, but it's everything it takes to design the system that we're going to use to get people from where they are to where we want them to be, right? And in that process, design the actual signs that are going to do that. And then the fabrication and installation is about $3,500 a sign, and that's on average. Some might be a little less, some might be a little more. It just depends on the size of the signs, et cetera, and what we're adding onto them. So the total of the process will be anywhere between $54,000 and $71,000. And we can be exact once we get into the design plan of the process. So, but that's really it. I mean, I'd like to say it's exactly this, but when we go through the locations that we'd like to highlight, you know, we might have several on one sign, and so the sign would obviously have to be bigger, you know. So it's just part of the planning process and why it's not an exact number. So really, that's what we have to present. I'd like to ask, does anyone have questions on this? Really on either of the processes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Fuller. I appreciate it. And Ms. Lewis, thank you very much for the presentation. I know I've written down several questions. I'm sure others have questions. So I want to open it up for questions from the committee, please. Mr. John.
Yeah, it seems to me that the builder signs wouldn't those normally be financed by the builders themselves?
They are. So the way it works is this: the city doesn't pay anything for any of the builder signs.
Okay.
We pay for those. We build and install them as the builder's contract for the location. So we offer them to them. And we go, okay, great. We'll put it up, and they're 1-year contracts for those panels. And then after that, they can cancel it with 1 month's notice. But that helps us not to lose money on structures for the builders in any specific location.
Yeah, they enter into, the builders enter into a lease agreement with National Sign Plaza to lease the space on the sign. So that's based, the builders support the program. Yes.
Yeah, it probably would be a good idea. I've noticed on numerous occasions coming back, say from Cedar Park to here on a weekend, especially, suddenly those conflicting signs will go up right after you go down the big hill. And your agreement with TxDOT, does that allow that not to happen and there to be permanent, semi-permanent signs where they don't have to go and pick them up and put them back?
Yeah, we don't, those aren't temporary, those are permanent. But we build them in your right of way. We don't build them within TxDOT's right of way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for an example, if you think about a TxDOT road, right? And then the roads that lead into the city coming off that TxDOT road. So, you know, 1431 being a TxDOT road, and then all the side streets coming off of 1431 that feed into Lago Vista. We would put the signs actually on the side roads, but visible from 1431. So we'd build in the city's right away. We'd have a contract with the city to be able to do that. You know, have a singular obligation between us, and then that allows us to do that without violating TxDOT's right away.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I'd like to follow on a couple follow-on questions. So you need a contract in order to do the signage for the builders. What do you need from the city?
Well, generally we have an agreement with the city. We have a basically boilerplate agreement that we could submit to the city. There does have to be generally a code revision to allow this, this type of signage in the right of way. I mean, I haven't read your sign code. I doubt it exists in there, but we work with cities and we can provide language, along those lines about how it should be worded. So there does have to be generally a code rewrite. And then just the agreement, it's an exclusive agreement between National Sign Plazas and the city, so you don't have all these different sign companies going out to put up signs. So
you answered another question I had, which was, had you checked our ordinances already to see if any of our city, if it's consistent with our building and standards ordinances, and you have not. So I will look into that. Thank you. And I also understood you to say no signage is allowable per TxDOT for-profit businesses, correct?
Yeah, generally, yeah. If you have a business district, yeah, you could lead them to a business district, but you couldn't put, you know, McDonald's or something on there, right? Unless it's like one of those designated Todd signs, you know, that you see on the interstates, ones. But those are, I don't think those exist on 1431. So
signage such as golf course is permissible,
yes.
city hall, library, state parks, county parks, et cetera,
Yeah.
city parks.
Civic destinations for sure, and districts. You know, if you have a designated shopping district or, you know. Stuff.
All right. I have more questions, but I don't want to dominate the floor here. So Norma, Russ, Brian, if you have anything, please interrupt me. Some other questions I have would be, where does the 3K revenue per annum, what is that? What are you basing that on?
Well, it's an estimate to how many builders we think would participate based on current building activity in Lago. You have 5 to 6 developments. You know, we'd probably be 5 to 6 panels per builder, you know, that they would contract with us, and so that translates to about, you know, when it's fully ramped up to about, you know, 25, or what did I say, 20 to 25 panels. So, and then $10 per month that the city would get from the lease, what we call an admin fee, and that goes back to the city. That's the $3,000.
So in that's derived from $10 per panel per month?
Yeah, we add that onto our lease agreement with the builders, and they pay that back. So
okay. Maintenance. And then what about the maintenance and upkeep of the signage? How long do you warranty that for?
well, the home builder side is
Indefinitely.
and for the entire length of the contract, as long as we're doing
Okay. As long as you're under contract, you're maintaining.
Yeah. Right. As far as the wayfinding, it's usually a 1-year maintenance for anything that, you know, was fabricated improperly, or, you know, didn't.
Right. If no one ran over it with a car and there's
Yeah.
an issue, we're going to come out.
And then I think it's, you know, the face of the sign is usually a 5-year, you know, fading and stuff. So
Okay. Those are all my questions. Others?
So this actually is for Eric, but you know, feel free to chime in, Patrick or Shell. So I know that Eric is actually concurrently working this with council, because we really think, because we've got these distinct centers and trying to find Arkansas Bend, et cetera, how are we or how should we present or whatever to get the funding for this? Eric, do you have that already in mind or earmarked?
You're on mute.
I think I lost Eric.
Oh, see, there he is.
Yeah, I'm having all type of difficulties. I don't have the money earmarked, but we are going through the budget cycle now, depending on National Sign Plaza coming out and doing a initial, I guess, due diligence of the city of what it would cost. We could probably come back with them to something in a true number to council, or a number closer. You're talking about the wayfinding component of that, correct? Because the Homebuilder signs pay for it itself. So you're talking about the wayfinding component?
Sorry, Eric. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And,
So
forgive me, my follow-up on that, Eric, is on the builder's side, I guess it's just maybe a recommendation by the EDAC committee to move forward on the builder signage?
that could be correct. That could be something we could do, yes.
So what I'd like to see done is, I'm sorry, Russ, just 1 second. I'd like to see a formal quote from Mr. Fuller's team for, have you guys research ordinances? Let us know what you would need to see changed in our city ordinances. I'd like to see a quote for the city's interests separate from the builder's interests. And then once you have that, if you could communicate that to Eric, then he can talk with me, and then we can have you come back and present to us and consider taking action on making recommendations for both the builders and as well as for the city. How do the rest of you feel on the committee about that?
Makes sense.
Russ, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
And I guess along those lines, Paul, is, you know, the number of signs is generally based on the number of destinations, right? And so I think Eric kind of gave me a kind of run through a few. I don't know if maybe some were missing. So if maybe I could get maybe a comprehensive list of all the destinations that you would like to highlight in the city, because that will definitely, you know, affect the number of signs that go in, and of course total cost. So.
Well, here, I'll rattle off some for you right now. Golf course, library, city hall, Arkansas Bend. What are some others, folks? Speak up.
Sunset Park.
Definitely.
Police department.
Sorry.
What was that?
Police department.
Police
Fire
department.
departments.
What about new ball fields? Would that be something you want to highlight?
Sure.
The schools.
Is that Sunset Park?
I mean, I know Warbler Vista is not technically in the city, but it is, you know, I know a lot of people go down there. Would that be something that you?
I would certainly encourage it. Anything pursuant to tourism, destination city, yes, absolutely.
And I think I had the airport on the sign too. I noticed on the
Sure.
Airport would be one. Sure.
The public schools, the elementary, middle, and high school.
Did anyone say the balcons?
I think they mentioned it in Warbler Vista or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick, we can get you a list and get that back to you. I did give you some, we could ramble them off, but we can get you a list, and the ones that are most effective, we feel that this committee feels that will need to be featured on these signs.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
That'd be great.
And also, I know we touched on, I was having difficulty. Did we touch on it? I think is Rochelle still on her? Is it 80-20 or 90-10 on as far as the home builder sign? You can actually put like a library or city hall. I think it's 20% on that sign. I might have missed that part.
Generally our contract for the home builder side, we do I essentially give the city about 10% of what panel count is. So if there was 30 panels, that would we give 3 right back to the city at no cost. So it's kind of I guess a wayfinding light, you know, it's not a full-fledged wayfinding system, but it can be utilized, you know, in that as well. So.
Yeah, and that would kind of highlight some of those buildings we was talking about, city hall, library. If the home builder sign is up, you could put that on there.
Yep.
And you know, if the plan is to do both, you know, we would do you know, two unique designs, but kind of a little bit tied together as well. So.
Give me just a second. Russ is trying to jump in. Russ. Yeah. No audio? Got no audio.
Yeah.
Sorry, Russ. You could try go to the agenda, and perhaps you could try calling in from your cell phone. The phone number should be on that. While Russ works on that, Mr. Jandro.
I'd just like to point out, for the benefit of the folks doing the signs, because it'll probably run into this peculiarity, that probably some of the strongest assets that we have in Lago Vista do not belong to the city. In other words, all of the parks that are on the lake belong to the Property Owners Association, and they are private. Unhappily, we have these wonderful things that we can't advertise. So, you know, just because you'll run into that peculiarity, you know, we talk about all of these other peripheral things like the Sunset Park and this, that, and the other, but the real jewels we can't talk about.
Okay, noted.
The city pool would be something you could do as well.
Yeah.
All right, can anybody hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
they can.
Excellent. So yeah, I was saying the same thing along the lines of what Don was saying, of putting some of the POA stuff in there, maybe with a different color, because I know it's separate, but I mean, that is basically how our city works. And then also we've got a lot of restaurants that are just dotted around and to a lot of people would just feel like random places. We've lived here long enough. We kind of take that for granted. We know where things are at. But if we want to drive business to some of these places, I know you can't advertise specific names, it sounds like, but I mean, you get on a Point Venture and you want to go to the Gnarly Gar, there is a sign that just says restaurant, and you follow that sign all the way down to the marina and you're going to arrive there. I mean, could we at least do something like that so that some of these businesses don't get left out or become forgotten or underserved?
Yeah, I think, something like marina or restaurants, I think are both acceptable,
What about like food court for the trucks?
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Anybody else have any ideas? What we've got? Everyone's thinking about it.
So back to the POA issue, would that be something that we could talk to the POA about a joint cost in that to, I see Don shaking his head no. Okay, well, I'll follow Don on this, and that sounds good.
Mr. Williams.
I think when we get further into this, the city could have the conversation with the POA to see if they were willing to participate. But we first need to get our idea on what our signs would look like and go from there. At least half the citizens of Lago Vista use the park, so it would be helpful to be able to let them know the names of the different parks that they try to find from time to time. I see a lot of people try to say, I need to go to Arrowhead Park, but I don't know how to get there, or something like that, or Barkay Pavilion. So it may be that the POA might want to participate in something like that, but I'm not positive on that. Don, with your hand.
Yeah. Now's not the time to discuss this,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you that the POA parks are private, and the only people that can go there are people who own property within the POA area. So it would only cause, I think, some sort of distress if you tell people that there's a lakeside park over here, but you can't go there.
Right.
And the people who are already in the POA or members of the POA have the resource of the POA. I think it's all screwy, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to add the chamber.
Yes.
Yeah, the chamber.
What about the Scott and White facility that we have here? We do have the urgent care, for lack of better terms. They're on Loman's Ford. I've never actually been there myself, but that clinic right there. What's the name of it, guys?
Are you talking about Scott and White or the one in the shopping center?
No, the one on Loman's Ford. Is that Scott and White that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, there's no longer one in the shopping center, I don't think, but Scott and White is a private, basically.
Yeah, I guess you can.
It's not an urgent care center.
Okay. All right.
It's a doctor's office.
Thank you, Don, for clarifying.
You bet.
All right. Anybody else? Mr. Fuller, Ms. Lewis, any committee members, any further discussion on this?
No, we'll get working on, what we need to work on. We'll reach out to Eric when we have that completed and get that over to him.
Great, thank you. We meet typically on the second Tuesday of every month. So that if you could try to have something by then, that would be ideal, with at least a week prior.
Absolutely.
And get you on the agenda. Russ.
I'd like to to throw out one more. I know it's private, but the other golf course that the city no longer owns, I mean, at least label it golf course, you know, to drive some traffic, because, I mean, I think we all want that place to succeed no matter who owns it.
No issue for me.
And Paul and Patrick, I think Patrick and Michael had talked about coming up to Lago Vista. They were close. Paul, I can get with you or any other committee member. We might want them to come on up and we can take them around and tour and kind of get that. That might help you a little bit on that. So I'm fully vaccinated. I don't mind getting around in the car with you and we can move around.
I got mine yesterday, so I'm all good.
Sounds like a great idea. Thank you, Mr. Zeno. Well, Mr. Fuller, Ms. Lewis, thank you very much for being here and joining us today and presenting. I think we've all enjoyed your presentation, and we look forward to visiting with you again soon.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Okay, folks. Moving on to action items. Consideration, agenda item number 4, consideration and possible action for EDAC to formally recommend to Lago Vista City Council that a resolution supporting or opposing Texas House Bill 4072, destination-based sales tax sourcing, should be passed, and for the following of said resolution to our state representative and senator. Now, with that introduction, Mr. Pinnell is the one who brought this to my attention. I've since looked into it. I'm sure others have too. But I'd like Mr. Pinnell to talk to us, kind of further introduce this, if you please.
Sure. There's currently, as Paul mentioned, there's currently a bill going through the House that would move Texas from an origin-based sourcing, sales tax sourcing state to a destination-based sourcing. So really, essentially what that does is for intrastate sales, all local sales tax collections would be collected at the destination to where the items were shipped. So, there's two different ways to look at it, right? So, if we're a consumer city, right? We may think that destination-based sourcing is better for Lago Vista, as people are ordering things from Amazon or from outside, retailers outside of the city. Those retailers would now need to collect sales tax for Lago Vista. So the flip side of that is any businesses that are located within Lago Vista that we are supporting through our, maintaining roads, and our police departments are patrolling their areas, providing services to these businesses. The flip side is those businesses would now be collecting sales tax for other local jurisdictions outside of Lago, right? So I think within Lago Vista, a couple of good examples are, I'll probably butcher the name, is anodamine, or the chemical place. Yeah. So, they, looking around Lago Vista, I'm assuming that a lot of their sales are outside of the city. So, if they're selling to customers in Houston, they're collecting Lago Vista sales tax on those transactions right now, right? And that makes sense from an economic perspective. The city of Lago Vista is supporting that business. We should get that sales tax. Another prime example in Lago is probably Vistago Print. They're probably doing a lot of business outside of Lago. So all of those tax dollars that they're collecting for Lago would now be gone.
So one of the reasons we're visiting this today is when Brian brought this to my attention and asked that we consider it, the context is, is this something, do we want to try to get out ahead of something which could adversely impact our local businesses, our commerce, revenue, et cetera. And, perhaps if our city council were to either pass a resolution requesting our state senator and our representative to either in the affirmative or to the contrary, that might give a little bit of weight, encourage them to vote one way or the other. To expound upon Brian's commentary, I found something, it'll take me about 3 minutes to read, that I think properly contextualizes the arguments for and against this. And I'm going to read this. This is from Business Climate Public Policy, dated April 19, 2021. A bill that is progressing through the Texas legislature proposes making the largest change to Texas sales tax policy in 50 years. If passed, the result will do lasting damage to economic development in Texas and will hurt any small business that deliver products or services to its customers. House Bill 4072 sounds relatively simple when first described. It shifts sales tax on all in-state purchases to a destination basis whenever a product or service is purchased in Texas and is delivered to another location in Texas. It requires sales tax to be collected and reported based on where the item is delivered. This apparent simplicity is deceptive, and upon further review becomes complicated in the extreme. Right now, a small business with only one place of business collects and remits sales tax on all orders at the rate of their location. In other words, a business in Round Rock delivering a product to San Marcos still tracks and collects sales tax at the rate in Round Rock. This system keeps tax collection simple for the small businesses. It is a policy developed and designed to encourage business startup and support entrepreneurs. It has served Texas well for decades. Under HB 4072, the same example business in Round Rock would need to collect sales tax for that order at the rate applied in San Marcos or any other location in Texas. Texas has more sales tax jurisdictions than any other state, more than 1,600 such jurisdictions. The vast majority of sales tax collections are made from over 600,000 Texas businesses, many of them small businesses employing 10 or fewer people. These are the same businesses that just survived the 2020 economic shutdown and are only now returning to some sense of normalcy. House Bill 4072 would force a small business in Round Rock to now track and assess sales tax for every location within Texas. A few examples: your favorite local pizza delivery business, think the one in Jonestown, or Domino's here, will need to know if the pizza is delivered across sales tax jurisdiction lines. If you order unique hair care products from your local stylist to be shipped to your home, that business needs to assess sales tax at the rate where you live. An entrepreneur making custom candles or aroma bath products will need to track 1,600 sales tax jurisdictions for any order shipped to a location in Texas. This will be the same for custom manufactured jewelry, construction products, some services provided at your home or business, and on and on. Almost done. A reasonable taxpayer might ask what the tax implications will be for communities across Texas. The answer is disappointing in the extreme. Even proponents of this legislation have acknowledged in the House Ways and Means Committee the largest proposed change to sales tax policy has not been comprehensively analyzed to measure the impact in Round Rock or any city in Texas or for your particular industry. The Round Rock Chamber is strongly against HB 4072. It will unnecessarily burden small businesses at a time when they are recovering from the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. The Chamber has been working with pro-business groups in the Central Texas region and across the state to explain the impacts to legislators. We are grateful that Senator Schutner and Representative Tarlet, I'm not going to try, have supported the Chamber's efforts from the beginning, and they continue to lead their colleagues who have not been as informed on HB 4072's anti-business impacts. The Chamber encourages local businesses to be informed and engaged if your business, and it goes on. So that's a lot, but I hope that provides some context.
I was just going to say, I think it gives some great perspective from a business standpoint, right? The additional burden that it'll give to small businesses.
Yes,
David?
Mr. Williams. You're muted, Mr. Williams.
Would that not have the same impact on large businesses? I'm just
Absolutely.
asking. You know, I mean, large businesses, instead of doing 1,600, they'd have to double that on the different places that they deliver to.
Which drives up prices for consumers, because when they hire people to come in and figure all this stuff out,
yeah,
you just get ready to pay more for everything.
It'll impact all businesses equally.
Okay.
Mr. Gondry.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. First of all, almost all of the businesses, except the ones that Brian made note of, almost all of them are basically local in nature. And this bill talks about wherever you take delivery, okay? Wherever you take delivery, that's where the tax is paid. And in the vast majority of cases, they would be taking delivery here. Now, in the case of Vistago sells retail. I mean, they sell to retail customers all over the place. And yeah, that might make a substantial impact on them. I'm not sure what the tax situation is on anodamine. I have to do a little bit of a study on that. They're basically selling to large entities who have accountants that screw around with taxes and things like that. So I don't know. But we have to also realize that the biggest chunk of taxes, I mean, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's Amazon. I mean, 90% of people here, I would say, buy from Amazon, and Amazon already has to pay taxes to us. And so in my way of looking at that, I think I would favor the status quo and then let the big businesses like Amazon go ahead and pay us what they're paying us, but not give up anything that we're collecting currently.
So you oppose the 4072. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think one of the key aspects I think that we need to consider from a economic development, consideration is, what are we going to do in the future? A lot of times we've been talking about bringing in those kind of industrial or warehousing facilities where people might be, a furniture maker or something that's not strictly local, right? And those types of businesses are the ones that can have the potential to drive large tax revenues for the city of Lago. And without collecting tax from outside of Lago, we're not going to have a way to reduce property tax rates for the citizens of Lago. So that I think origin sourcing, if you're able to attract the right businesses, allows a community to lower property tax rates.
I think too, just from my own point of view, we want to grow our local small businesses. And to do that, we need to remove impediments. When you're having to, just imagine for a moment, if you're a one-man or one-woman business or a mom and pop business or a three-person business, having to track all of that sales tax and report all of that to each of these different municipalities. It's onerous at best. In my business, where in states where I ship, and remember, I'm dealing with other resellers. I don't deal with retail customers, but in my business, I have to track sales to every state where I ship more than $100,000 of goods. And I have to file income tax reports. I mean, you get on their radar, you have to do this. And so that you add some, if somebody might, so it's just another layer. It's not needed. And one thing I did find out that's good, Aaron actually pointed this out to me, our city attorney, is that this is not going to make it it's not going to be up for a vote before the state. So we do have some time on this. it's not on she follows that calendar really closely of pending legislation, and she checked it, and it's not going to be on the October one. So we do have some time on this, which is good for council. I have a spreadsheet that I got off the SBA's website, the Small Business Administration's website, and I'm just doing the rough math real quick. What it is it's a list of everybody nationwide who received PPP loans of under $150,000. And I'm just trying to do quick math on the total number of Lago Vista businesses. And there were 117 businesses in Lago Vista who received PPP loans. 117. The reason we don't know about them is because they are genuinely small businesses. And these are the kind of people that I fear would be most impacted. I don't want to read their names, but as I look at these names, it's clear to me that a lot of these people are undoubtedly selling some type of a retail product for which they are at least supposed to be collecting sales tax outside of Lago Vista. So I think that there is a larger footprint here that's hidden that we could, if this bill fails, it'll be good for them. My inclination is that this bill has probably got virtually not much support in the State House, and that's good from my point of view. So I guess the question for everyone is, do we want to take action and just make a simple recommendation to council that they pass a resolution themselves opposing the bill, and then make that known to Vicki Goodwin in our state senator?
Paul, I'm wondering if maybe I liked I believe you were reading something that was put out by Round Rock. I'm wondering if we could follow that to go ahead and write our own, basically plug and play,
Sure.
so that we could present to council.
Yep, let me get that to you. Hold on, let me just forward it while I have it in front of me. I'll make a note, Norma, and forward this to you. Okay. We do have that. So then what we need to do is take this as our template, reword it, and then take action on it. Agree, everyone? Okay. Does anybody on the committee here today, we're missing 2 members, but does anybody here support this HB 4072? Okay, so we're all opposed to it. Then let us not take action now. I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion that we table this item since we have time and the clock is not ticking against us. And in the between now and our next meeting, we can come up with a draft document to submit to council. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Great.
Mr. Chairman, would you want the chamber to be involved in that as well? I think Jennifer is on here as well. I don't know if she's talked to her board concerning this bill.
I would like to invite, what I think would be great is to have the chamber, what we can do is have the chamber add their signature to our resolution. I think that would be the appropriate way to do that. Is we'll do this and they can sign it and endorse it just the same as well. If the chamber would like to come up with their own language, they're certainly welcome to do that. But being that they're a separate entity from us, I don't know how else to incorporate them into this other than for them to sign it as an endorsement, a signature to it. Do you have any ideas to that
Yeah,
end?
we're actually bringing it up on our board meeting. Last board meeting, we did table it to this board meeting. I did post on just on the newsletter informing the businesses, and went to visit the 3 businesses that I think it would impact the most as far as that I would know of. The other one was Wild Navy, and actually 80% of her business is shipped in Texas, because remember, she also has her online Wild Navy. So this is just the storefront. So I did go and talk to each of those businesses, let them know and inform them of this, that this bill was getting passed. I know I also reached out to like Eric just to kind of see what he thought the impact would be as far as for the budgeting of next year, if it were passed. But I think with it not getting passed in October, and then I think they have the year off. So it's something that I don't think we're looking at for almost another 2 years. So that's, again, kind of why we tabled it, but we are having the board meeting tomorrow. But I do think that we'll kind of do it separately. I'm more than happy to sign on that. But I think as far as supporting small businesses, to do it separate as well.
One thing to note, it's kind of unrelated. Well, it is related to destination sourcing, but last year the comptroller issued new rules regarding destination sourcing, requiring any seller that accepts an order over the internet to collect on destination-based sourcing. So, that would impact small businesses as well. Somebody like the Wild Navy that has one storefront and also has an online presence would technically have to collect Lago Vista sales tax on any orders that were taken at the store or over the phone. And then any internet orders, they would have to do destination sourcing based on the comptroller's rule.
At the comptroller's rule, as I understand it, was based on the Supreme Court case that was before them maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And it was the foundation of it all was brick and mortar. They didn't have to, nobody had to collect sales tax unless they had a physical presence in that locality. If you buy something from Best Buy online, but there's no Best Buy store in your town, they don't have to collect sales tax. But that's now why we all see sales tax being collected on all of our online purchases. And I mean, goodness,
But it does impact some of those Wild Navy small businesses, comptroller's rule. So I think, beyond 4072 as an economic development advisory committee, we may want to think like, do we just in general support origin sourcing or destination sourcing? But that's probably a future conversation after the session.
If you'd like to discuss that in the future in more depth, Brian, send me your proposed agenda language and we can discuss that at that time.
Will do.
Okay, well, we've tabled that and our discussion is over and we need to move on to the next action item, which is going to be number 5, consideration of possible action on a recommendation to the Lago Vista City Council regarding the city's contract with Real Strategies beyond October. With that, did anybody, the presentation that we saw from them at our last meeting is effectively the same. For those of you who missed the city council meeting, it was effectively the same presentation. The only difference being there were several questions fielded from council. Who has I'd like to hear your opinions on this.
So a couple of things came to mind, and I talked to Eric about this. I did end up attending a webinar that Retail Strategies put together where they were interviewing, I believe it's called the CDFA, so Council for Development Financial Association. So in other words, finance behind all this stuff. In addition, that it actually, Retail Strategies had more demographic info and trends and stuff like that. So it was a nice resource, based on their site. But in regard to Retail Strategies, one of the things that they do deliver beyond looking at retail or assisting the city with that is numbers and information and data and such as that. So I only bring this up to go, there are some resources that we are utilizing beyond just using them as a retail organization to help us at trade shows and bringing retail in. I would say if we go ahead and decide to recommend that we don't want to continue with the retail strategies, that we really do look at some of the ancillary, maybe not right in our face benefits that they might provide, and can we get that data or that information in other places? So I think there needs to be a little bit of analysis on that, perhaps. And I haven't had a time to really dig into that, everyone. I realized with some of the information that we could take action on, like grants and things like that, that were brought up through retail strategies, it just kind of opened my mind. They are a broader resource than what we may be thinking.
Anybody else? So here, I'll share some of my observations for what it's worth. I believe we pay them approximately 20, is it, Eric, is it $26,000 or $30,000 a year?
First year was discounted. I think if we total it was like either $62,000 or $63,000 we paid them for 2 years.
Okay, thank you. So my view is a little bit averse to. I don't support. I would recommend the city council not renew the contract. I think we're spending money with them, and I don't think we're getting much for our money. I don't think. Well, I don't think that they have brought anything to town that wouldn't have come here on their own anyway. We have an economic development director. We have a chamber of commerce. They provide some analytics. That's great. We can get that on our own. I just don't see the value. What I see is reports of them reaching out to the same people over and over again, and I'm not seeing results. What I see is an Arby's. I see these random things, but I don't see them producing any results other than here's our contacts. Here are the people we're calling. Here are the people we're talking to. Okay, but what is it that how are they the catalyst for anything to date? What is it? What have they done? What are we getting for our money that we cannot get with our Chamber of Commerce or our Economic Development Director, or by simply building it and they will come? I think it's naive to think that there's retail franchise businesses out there that are not already looking at Lago Vista and that aren't to attribute them looking at. I don't believe that retail strategies is the reason that we will get a Dairy Queen one day or a Baskin Robbins, or the reason that we got Starbucks, for example. Everybody's looking at Travis County. The growth rates are unbelievable, some of the best in the nation. And I just don't think we need to spend money to get nothing. That's just my opinion.
I would agree with that, Paul. I think if we concentrate on bringing primary jobs here to the city, everything else is going to follow. Like you said, if we build it, Dairy Queen will come here one day.
Well, I agree. Analyzing, I think we need to be broader than just retail, right? That was one of my thinking on that. I think there's some other businesses, but I don't go lightly. I mean, currently I know they're expanding Eric's efforts in terms of aiding him with, trade shows and such. Eric is how do I put this? Is the assistance that provided, let's say we took some of that money and got you a part-time assistant director or something, would you be able to do the same thing, essentially, that you currently are doing to the effort that you think needs to be done for the city?
Yeah, no, I'm fine either way. Retail, we need to look at retail strategies is a retail recruitment firm. So it's in their name is what they do is in the title. So they are a retail recruitment firm. They did do some analytics, as Paul said. I'm 100% believe what Brian and Paul said. From my past experience at other cities, I mean, if we build it, they're coming. I believe retail follows rooftops, numbers, and so. But to say that retail strategy was not a help, I would not say that, because they did help in some areas that, and it's also, I just got off of the phone with a developer today so that was Thursday, that has a big development in another city, and said he would never look at Lago Vista because of other impediments. So it's a lot of reasons why things don't happen. So I wouldn't put everything on retail strategists in front of them and saying that they're the reason that this wouldn't happen or this didn't happen. Yes, you're correct. I helped get the Starbucks here. I got the hotel here, the Lago Vista Village that was sitting empty for over 9 years. I reached out and did a relationship building with Logan Zoe, the property owner. We got 4 tenants in there. So it just, yeah. So I don't have a dog in the fight, but I'm with Brian and Paul. I believe that retail follows rooftops, numbers, and we build it, they will come. Now, of course, we need to build it and come. We can concentrate on that aspect. That we can say it all day long. Are we going to build it, or are we not going to build it? So, yeah. But I agree with that at point. To answer your question, they have not brought any retail here since they've been on board for 2 years. But again, COVID hit. We have other issues too. So I'm not going to put it all on retail strategists. I'm not going to say that. But we had COVID. We had other issues that out of control, and
I think I would rather have seen $60,000 put into a marketing campaign than maybe have gotten more. Well, whatever the case, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the input. What is it, Eric, what is it that they are, the analytics and a couple things that Norma mentioned that you find helpful to you in your role? What are those specific things that you want to be able to get if the contract ends with them? Like the marketing brochure, for example, right? Who would put that? How could we get that put together if they go away?
Yeah, I mean, there's several other companies do that, and we could do that ourselves in-house if we needed to. But there's other places we can look at that. So I mean, their brochure part of, they did put a good, nice brochure and thing, but that's not. We can get that in. We can get that somewhere else, Paul.
Okay.
But I'll be hesitant to even mention canceling the contract. I mean, let them go ahead through October. We don't need to alert them, because they might bring something in from the next few months that we don't want to alert them that, hey, we're going to cancel in October. So
right. No.
It's premature, in my opinion.
Yes, that we not renew, exercise our option to renew in October. Cancellation is the wrong word. It's the contract is up for renewal in October. The recommendation to council would be that it not be renewed. And of course, it's certainly their prerogative, and frankly speaking, I think sometimes when people are under the gun and their job's on the line and they do catch wind of that coming before council, maybe they'll produce something pretty quick in the next 2 months. But
you're correct, but I think they're on the win. I pretty much gave them a good, I just say they've heard from me. So I think they pretty know that pretty much. But I would probably wait to September before, making the recommendation on the record into council. That way, let them go ahead and do what they're going to do, and don't renew it if that was council would not like to do.
Well, it came really close to one member making a recommendation this past Thursday. Almost, I heard him on the tips of his lips about to make a motion to just not renew it. Just make that motion right then. But you're asking that we not make that recommendation until September. Am I understanding you correctly? If that is the direction that the committee is leaning, is it your request that we refrain from doing so until September, closer to that option period?
That's my recommendation. I mean, we done paid them. The check's been cashed. Let them go ahead and do their contract out in case something comes up. Instead of they might be under the gun, like you said, precedent again. They might say, well, we got $65,000. No, we just sit back and let the contract run out. So my recommendation would be September, since it runs out in October.
I think how do you and I invite everybody to chime in on this. My inclination is to still make the recommendation to council now, so that the council has plenty of time between now and October to consider that and take action as they see appropriate. I think it gives the council more leeway, because ultimately it's not, we're just making a recommendation, and it's up to the council to act on that recommendation. I feel like if we make that recommendation now, that fire is lit under them for longer.
Yeah, I'm fine either way, Paul. I think, and also we have an election coming up in October too with council seats, and so I mean, again, so I'm fine either way. Whatever this committee decides, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
But I think retail strategist pretty much knows that, and I've talked to him and her, and actually he's moving. The good thing about it, they're in Birmingham now. The guy that's been working with us is actually moving to Dallas. They're actually expanding their role to the Texas area now, and have a second headquarters in Texas. They'll be in Fort Worth, and he's able to drive up. But that has nothing to do with our contract. But they did do some reorg in their organization and looking at reaching out to the southern states now. And so they're actually going to be coming to, he's actually relocating to Texas at the end of this month into their new office, Dallas Fort Worth office.
Thank you. Russ, what do you think?
I'm sorry, that was for me, Paul. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was asking Russ.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Use his phone.
Yeah, I'm fine with all of that as well. That sounds good to me.
Don?
Well, I agree with you all. I've been pretty underwhelmed with the performance from the get-go when they tried to tell us we were part of Lakeway. A little bit difficult. So I think that Eric can give us the guidance and get it done without their assistance.
Brian? You're muted, Brian.
Yeah, I would agree. I have been unimpressed with the results, so I would support not renewing the contract in October, unless something drastically changes between now and then.
Okay. All right. Would anybody like to make a motion?
The motion being
that a recommendation from Lago Vista Economic Development Advisory Committee to the Lago Vista City Council, that retail strategies contract not be renewed in October at expiration.
I will make a motion that the national what is it?
Retail strategies.
Retail strategies contract not be renewed in October.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Okay, ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. And we move on. Item number 6, consideration and possible action adopting the committee's annual work plan as currently written. with that, I think it just important, everybody, having looked at this, is everybody okay with the wording? Does anybody want to change the wording? This will be a living document that we can come back and amend, and we'll work on. I have, if I'll throw one out there, and I did speak with Russ about this. On page 3 of the actual work plan, which is in the PDF version of our agenda packet from online, it's page 11, where it says recruit new businesses, strategy lead Paul Roberts. Russ was not present for that meeting, so I stepped in, and I'd like to change that to Russ Murphy. So that would be my one recommended change. Does anybody else? Russ, are you agreeable to that? Please.
Yeah, I mean, I can do it. If you can give me to like the 35th of the month sometimes to get some things done, but yeah, outside of other time commitments, I will put extra resources I have into that.
Okay. I'm anxious, I think probably like some of y'all, to talk a little bit more about these specific things that we're each basically assigned, or we're spearheading. But we do have that on our agenda for a little bit later, and we can talk more about that. But as far as the work plan as written, any other changes? Does anybody need a couple minutes to look at it again? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody asking for more time to review this further, but I see everybody's eyes glued to the screen reading it. I'm going to give everybody just a moment to look this over real quick.
Paul, I didn't get it out, but I did go ahead and type up like my report today, and in that it had real specific actions. I think, Dave Williams mentioned that, okay, well, we have kind of the overarching goals in each of those categories. And I think it gives us a broad enough room in those categories to go ahead and take specific actions toward those goals. So I think by adopting this particular version of the work plan, adding Russ as strategy lead, with that one change, is good in terms of going ahead and getting this document over to council as it was mandated for us to do. We can add to that, and it can also be stated, our reports for each of us that I either type up while we're talking in our meetings, or in my case, I'm going to go ahead and keep an ongoing little document that I'll insert right under each of the subheadings of the work plan to, again, give to Eric, and then he can utilize that, and Paul, to report to the city council of our activities. Anyway, it's just info.
And that's important because in the city ordinance specifies that, or prescribes for the chair of the committees, of each of the city's committees, to report to the council in June. So that's pretty quick. At this moment, I don't have a lot to report, but I'll be letting them know, hey, look, our committee has put our work plan together. And by the way, I want to commend all of you for the time you're putting into this committee, because to my knowledge, no other committee or commission has yet finalized their committee or commission's work plan. And I think that that's commendable. So good job, everybody on that. Well, if there's no proposed changes to the work plan as written, I agree with what Norma said. It gives us a lot of latitude and leeway to work within its language. So with that, I would make a motion. I'm going to make a motion. I motion that we approve the work plan as written with except that, I'm sorry for the noise, y'all, except that Russ Murphy in place of Paul Roberts for strategy lead on recruiting businesses. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, it's approved. Great. With that, we can check that off. And consent agenda. All matters listed in item 5 consent agenda are to be considered routine by the committee and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Consider approval for the following April 13, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Has anybody not read the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Brian.
And
I'll second.
I think that was Russ.
I think that was Russ.
That was Russ. And then Norma, you seconded? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. So motion passes. Minutes are approved. The Wayfair builder signage. I thought that was a pretty good presentation. That's item number 8 is discussion items on the Wayfair builder signage. We have this on here just as a follow-up so we can talk a little bit more about it. Anybody have any additional discussion that they'd like to have on the Wayfair signage? Any thoughts going forward beyond what we've already discussed? Mr. John?
No, I think it's a great idea and something that we need. There are other steps that sort of should be in there also, but that's a good step forward. And I think maybe, I don't know, Eric, you want any help compiling that list or?
Yeah, that's fine. I think what we can do is I'll see when he can come up, and we might can even those that we can meet probably at the office, but we can take them around on a tour and show them kind of more of what we would like to see. Keep in mind, we keep saying Wayfinder. Somebody, are we talking about the Wayfinding sign or the Homebuilder sign? Or are we talking about both? So it's kind of two different products.
Yeah, Wayfinder.
Okay.
And I'll be honest. I'm indifferent on the home builder signs. I mean, I think our home builders are doing a decent job of directing traffic to themselves and just to not clutter up things. But I mean, looking at the size and scale of our city and the, say, 10 things, give or take, that we're going to point directions to, could we do that same thing ourselves with, say, using Vistaprint or something, and for about a fraction of that cost? I mean, how hard is it to print a restaurant? To just sign that says restaurant, go here, or marina, go here, or Point Venture is that way? I mean, am I getting too far outside of our scope, or what are your guys' thoughts there?
Not at all. Those are all great questions.
I noticed. Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that if we're not utilizing an expert like NSP who really understands what TxDOT will and will not do, et cetera, I think the employees through the city are probably, I don't know, we'd have to find the capacity for someone to make sure that they're interfacing with TxDOT. So that may not be a big deal for the kind of signage that we're doing in the few, but on the other hand, like in the form of Cedar Park, where things kind of went awry in terms of the signage that they had there, they spent money and now they can't use it and blah, 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 blah. We just need to consider the interface and the time that it takes to do that, was just my thinking.
No, and that makes perfect sense. And what I gathered was as long as we don't single any business out and give them an unfair edge per se in these signs, and they're generalizations. It sounded like, we could find examples from slides or other cities online and just to find somebody that can replicate that for us. And I mean, I got a post hole digger. I mean, we could throw a few of those in the ground on one Saturday and save ourselves a few bucks. But just some thoughts, just some ideas. And before we get into another contract where we're shelling out a lot of unnecessary funds that could be used elsewhere.
I think the number I saw was as high as $71,000 for a delivered product.
Somewhere in there.
Don, I mean, speak freely, please.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused because they kept emphasizing, as Norma pointed out, the TxDOT aspect. And then when they talked about putting signs on the TxDOT right away, they said, no, we can't do that. So if TxDOT has a say on 1431, but they don't care about Loman Ford, what's the deal with TxDOT?
I mean, the signage would be needed would be most beneficial probably on 1431 within TxDOT's purview. And that's assuming you want to look at that as you come into town too.
I understand, but my point is if they won't put anything on 1431 because of TxDOT, then why do we worry about TxDOT when we put a sign on Loman Ford?
I think they misquoted that. I don't think you worry about that TxDOT on Loman's Ford, Don.
Okay.
So much. Yeah.
So then that's
one they were more talking about. And I'm with you on that. I think we should look at the home builder component of that and get the 10% as first as a free product. Then we can always a la carte the wayfinding. We don't need to, in my opinion, whatever the committee wants to do, but we don't need to spend, like you said, $71,000 on the wayfinder. We can get some of that done with the home builder component of that. And speaking with them, keep in mind too that what if I spoke with Roy, what that does too, when the home builders now, when they put up their signs, it's in our code enforcement. They're not in jurisdiction. Code enforcement goes out and have to remove and enforce those sign ordinance that we have. So that's way this professional does that, and the home builders cannot do that at that point in time because they've signed the contract with these guys to do those signs. So it kind of, again, with staff and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm with you. I would let's say the home building component of that. Let's see how that goes before we jump out on the wayfinding and trying to spill that type of money. We can always a la carte that if we needed to. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
The city budget is so stretched thin right now. They're trying to reallocate funds. Our rainy day fund, much of it was allocated in last year's budget, and then this this ice apocalypse hit, and now we're trying to find money to fix our roads. We've got a contract approved. I think it was approved this past city council meeting to put 2 inches down on Loman's Ford, and it's expensive. But we did leave it with them asking them to come back to us with both the builder's option and for the city. So let's hear what they have to hear what they have to say on both.
Yeah.
And then we can nix whatever we want, or we can make recommendations as we see fit.
Yeah, I agree. I read into a lot of that outside of the 1431. Yeah, there's going to be some guidelines there, but I'm with you, Eric. I read into, they're just trying to sell us them on why we need them to do the stuff on the interior when really, we don't. I think we could do that for a much cheaper cost.
Just 1 second. I'm just doing some math on something. They were suggesting like that $3,000 a month number. We would need 25 home builder signs for that, is what that would equate to. The $10 a month. 25 home builders per month, 12 months, $3,000. Okay, guys. Well, if no more discussion on Wayfair, we can move on.
Real quick,
Yeah.
I took it that those were subsidized by the home builders, and if the home builders we have don't participate into that, we may not have anything there either.
That's correct, Russ, but I think it was 5 that they named that we in Lago now, that on the 5, they were already participating in other cities. They didn't see a problem with them participating in Lago again.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's some contracts in place. That's good.
It's there to that benefit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Eric had mentioned, I like the idea of that kind of hybrid home builder, Wayfair, signage. That would at least get most people to the main points that we want them to go to.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to number 9. Report from strategy leads on the following. Norma, support existing business. Paul, Russ, recruit new business. Gage and Don, develop local infrastructure. Brian, recommended government policies and programs. And Robin, promote, advocate Lago Vista. I'm going to speak on behalf of Robin. Let me share with everyone what Robin and I spoke about rather briefly today. She's in Colorado, and she said, pursuant to her efforts, what she's done is she's put together she's trying to put together a questionnaire that she can put out to people, asking what they want to see in the city, something to that effect. So that's it. That's all I know. So I'm disclosing and sharing that with you guys. I did suggest to her, I said, if that's something she wants to pursue, to put together a list of what those questions are, and if she'd like to get the committee's feedback on that, if compliant with Texas Open Meetings Act, I can take that, she could email that to everyone, and you guys could email her back individually with your thoughts on questions, either adding them or revising questions to put out to the citizenry for polling. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's her contemplation. I guess I just go in order here. So Norma, you're the first one listed. How are things going with your efforts?
In the time that I have between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., going great, like all of us. So I went ahead and made a list, and I'll send this out to everybody. I did attend that Retail Strategies webinar, and actually got energized in regard to knowing the kinds of monies that were coming down from in regard to the American Rescue Plan, and perhaps being accessible. I did bring it up to Paul, and he kindly got Paul Prince on the line, and so we had a discussion. And basically, the reason that I was excited about doing that was, like, if we found a way to set up a let's say a micro loan fund for local businesses in order for them to expand. So in other words, finding a grant to do that we could just pave the way very quickly to go ahead and have the city council get behind any grant that we wanted to pursue in that fashion. Now, the other thing that I did after that was to go ahead and research grants. And I will say, whatever first round grants that were out there, like at the Texas Municipal League, like the CAPCOG, the Council of Governments, or the CDFA, most of them said that they were already closed. They already had whatever applications, but I understand some of this is the grant monies are coming to the local areas after May. I think that's right, Eric. I'm not. So that being said, I'm watching the websites, and I did go ahead and talk to Eric and asked him to help me compile a list of associations that might have grant listings for us to look at. And so anyway, I'm going to compile that up so every month we can go through and kind of quickly look at what's going on and see if there's any grants for any programs that we may want to start to assist our local businesses. I would like to recommend, and I'm not sure if this is here in my report or future business, but I really do think sooner rather than later that we go ahead and have I believe she's the new director of the Capital Area Council of Governments. And the reason behind that is that CapCog is the funnel and the notifier, and we want a relationship there to know about monies as soon as they are available. So again, I would like to maybe bring that up for future business. Upcoming, I actually found that I wanted to reach out to like Robin and Jennifer. I haven't reached out to you, but I want to reach out to you because I want to be able to interview businesses and really find out what their needs are. So maybe we can find a few top action items to target with some of the grants that we're looking for. So that's my report.
Norma, sorry. Do we know if there's any kind of existing local businesses that are, looking to expand or renovate their existing facilities where we might want to help them out with a 380 agreement or something like that? I can think of a number of gas stations in town that could use a facelift.
Well, that was my next. So poor Eric is going to be getting calls from me every month because he's the one that, him along with those two are going to be hearing from me a lot. Right? How do I assist y'all in helping to assist those businesses? So at this time, I see Russ. Okay, Russ, I'll be calling you too. I am like, guys, send my way, businesses to talk to, and I will get them in so that we know what they need and try to go after those funds as quickly as possible to assist them. Yeah.
Well, I just actually had a comment on there as you're going after some of these grants and what have you, and that if they come in on the city level for us to use, what would be the thought or process, or what do you guys think if we started some sort of like perpetual business fund where you give that money out to the business, let them use it to grow, and they have so much time to pay it back? Now, honestly, we're not going to ding their credit if they don't pay it back or anything like that. But the idea is you're expected to, and then that way those funds could then be reused to help the next guy, So, and as you get more grants, that just opens up. But instead of chasing down a grant every time somebody needs something, if that grant's not available, we have that fund to fall back on. And if people do pass it back and pay it forward, if you will, then we never run out of resources. I mean, does that make, am I describing that? Does that make sense, or what are your thoughts?
I think it's a neat idea. I think it's a good idea, but how do we facilitate that as a city? How do we set that up?
I mean, there's layers. I mean, there'd have to be an approval process. You wouldn't just be frivolous on who we gave that to, and somebody would have to present a plan of, this is what we're going to do. This is exactly what we're going to do with the money. This is our anticipated revenue that it would generate over the next year, 18 months, whatever the case. And this, by doing this, we'd be able to pay, even if it's 50% of it back, or something along those lines. We don't want to cut into people's profits. We want them to make money. But at the same time, it would preserve that grant money and make it last just a little bit longer if necessary.
I think if we could get out of Cap Metro and reallocate some of that money, you set up a economic development corporation would be the appropriate facilitator, something like that, it seems to me.
In the meantime, I think I hear that Russ, you and I are gonna, because you're recruiting and I'm helping the existing, and we're gonna look for the perpetual business fund together. What do you think?
You know, I wonder, I cited that SBA list of PPP loan recipients from the first round. I wonder, you know, it's got names, addresses, contact info. I wonder how we could utilize that information and reaching out to those businesses and seeing what their needs are and stuff. If you guys, if anybody wants that list, let me know. I'll be happy to share it with you. And, you know, if you have an idea for how to utilize it, it's a list. Mr. Williams, you raised your hand. Oh, okay. Okay, well, Norma, thanks for that report. All right, moving on. Recruit new businesses. Paul and Russ. Russ was gone. This just landed in Russ's lap today, and I have been, I've done nothing. I have been absolutely inundated with many things besides running a business and 3 children and a spouse. And I have been working on the city's charter review committee and now building a standards committee and other things. So I'm going to be freed up more, Russ. Now, like you and I were talking about on the phone today, my children are finishing up school this week. This is their last week. I'm getting my weekends back because we just finished soccer for the 2 boys. Now we just have basketball for our daughter, and that'll be through the month of June every weekend. So I should have a little bit more time. If you want to collaborate with me in any capacity, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you. Okay. Moving on. Gage and Dawn. Gage is not here. Develop local infrastructure. How go your efforts?
Well, basically, Gage provided a very nice outline that it looks like the recommendation was that we focus our efforts on 3 different segments of the infrastructure. First of all, broadband internet access, transportation and mobility, and public utilities. And I subsequently did sort of a fill-in on the backside of that, and we haven't had a chance to discuss it, but mine is sort of goes from the beginning up to now. That basically in Lago Vista, we are suffering under some of the shortcomings that were passed on to us from the past, and we're trying to improve things and get everything back, get everything into the shape that probably it should have been originally. And that is, you know, there's a lot of infrastructure work, as Mr. Williams knows well, that when Lago Vista was laid out, it was laid out with largely without water and sewer. And, you know, whenever you're talking to people coming in here wanting to develop and wanting to build new homes and so on and so forth, and you have to go back and say, well, we've got to figure out how to get you water and sewer, you know, and then we're going to talk about broadband internet and all of this. It's a very, very big problem, and it's something that we need to figure out a way to try to at least approach accessing a solution. But the first and overwhelming thing that we need to do right now is the broadband business. I noticed that someone, maybe it was you, Paul, passed around or maybe it was Brian, the relief plan. I don't remember the exact title.
And then I replied to him with some additional information.
Yeah, and you know, and also I think I sent to some of you sort of a summation of Vice President Harris's focus on internet and everything like that. our needs really don't match what those programs are dealing with. And I've sat in on some programs, some meetings of the governor's task force on the internet. What generally is defined as high-speed internet is 25 megabits per second download, and we're beyond that, and we need much more than that. So I'm not sure how much we can take advantage of that, because there are apparently large sectors of Texas that don't have any internet available, any high-speed internet available. So, we sort of have to figure out how we can go on our own to get up to the level where we can attract all of those employees of the Apple campus and Tesla and the Future Command and all of that sort of thing, because that's incumbent on bringing them here, which will increase the number of rooftops with folks with higher pay and paying wages and so on and so forth, which will eventually attract the businesses we want to attract. So it's one thing feeds the other, and we've got a lot of thoughts going. It's just a way of presenting it logically, and a way of attacking it that we need to work out. But in the meantime, Eric, it would be great to have a close connection with the folks of Spectrum Business, and not Spectrum Business, but Spectrum Residential, to find out exactly how things are going, what we can do to help them build things out, because they're right now our main hope.
Feel free to contact them, Don. I think you had the contact for them, so feel free to reach out and talk with them. No problem.
Have you talked to them lately?
No, I have not.
Do you still have the contacts? I mean, we sat in on a meeting last year, I think, with the gentleman, and when we had Josh, and they made some commitments back and forth, but I think we need to maintain that a closer relationship with them, and I'd be happy to do that, but I need to know who to. Mr. William, David.
If you can't get in touch with them, I can kind of help you find some of the contacts and go from there. Okay.
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
I have
to leave before. I have to leave this meeting, Paul.
Yeah. Mr. Roberts, Chairman. Yeah, I'm gonna have to close the meeting down. We have a council meeting at 6, and I'm gonna have to cut you guys short, I'm afraid. If you could please wrap it up, I would appreciate it.
Sure. All right. So we'll adjourn. I think we've covered all of our important things we needed to vote on. Future meetings. We're going to cut the discussion short on that item. I do want to add one thing. Don, I did just forward you some loose thoughts from a friend of mine, and I'm going to read it real quick. AT&T, this is unvetted, but just a loose thought on trying to force people to get us broadband internet. AT&T has been given a monopoly right for wired communications in its area. They are required to provide universal service and can't be compensated by the government for service to areas with low density like ours. If wired service is not viable, wireless service can be substituted. That is what I use. So there might be an avenue, if that loose theory is correct, to apply pressure to them to give us the broadband. But anyhow, future meetings, email me your future meetings ideas, guys, and we'll get them on the agenda if it makes sense to do so. And with that, with 4 minutes left for the council meeting, anybody else? Anything? Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Any second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's approved. Great job, everyone. Talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.